Hey, Rube, how you doing?
Hey, Dave, what's up?
Not much. I'm feeling better than the last pod,
That's
so
good.
I'll be able to make it through this one, I think.
Concerned.
Man, I tell you what, I get sick like every Super Bowl. It's almost impossible not to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like your body just breaks down after working every day for 7 months. Your body, like, if the Super Bowl ends and you're like, your body's just like, that's it. I can't take anymore. It just breaks down.
This week, I had a little breakdown, and I was like watching so much TV that I was like, last night, I was like, no, I'm reading a book, and I ordered a whittling kit on Amazon.
Really?
So I'm gonna start up a new hobby.
Whittling.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do that in Boy Scouts.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you going to, what's your first project?
I don't know. I have to figure out what's like an easy beginner project. That's where my life is now. I'm going to start whittling. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Ruben Frank. I'm the whittler, Dave Zangaro. We do have a lot to talk about today. The Eagles have a new offensive coordinator. They have a new passing game coordinator. We'll get into all that. Doug Nussmeier, the former quarterbacks coach, is leaving. We'll talk about that as well. And then the second half of the pod, looking forward to this. Gosh, we had about 50 emails, probably more than that, with nickname ideas for this Eagles defense. We're going to go through them all, and we're going to try to at least narrow down a few good nicknames for this Eagles defense under Vic Fangio.
Yeah, and this started when I was just kind of relaying a story about 1989 flying from Denver to San Diego, and the only people on the flight, the Eagles practiced all week in San Diego in La Jolla. Actually, they practiced up at a high school north of La Jolla. I don't remember the name, but it was there's a big golf tournament there. You know anything about golf? You're more of a whittling expert than a golf expert. But they practiced at a high school north of La Jolla. So we were stuck at the La Jolla Marriott for 8 days north of San Diego. And on that flight, the beat writers were the only people on the flight. The flight was empty. And we just spent that probably 3.5 hours coming up with nicknames for that defense, the Buddy Ryan defense. That's when we settled on Gangrene, which kind of stuck. We all wrote it. We all wrote stories the next day about that. That's going to be the nickname. I'm not sure about the ethics of that, but it was fun. And so we started talking about, let's come up with a nickname for this defense, which doesn't really have one, and it needs one. They're good enough to have a nickname.
Yeah. So we'll have a lot of fun with that later on in the pod. But first, the big news, the Eagles promote Kevin Patullo from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator. This was the move we all kind of anticipated during Super Bowl week when we kind of figured that Kellen Moore was leaving to take the Saints head coaching job. The name we all heard was Kevin Patullo, especially if they won the Super Bowl. You had a real feeling that he was going to get this job.
Yeah, that would empower Nick to kind of keep his guy. Kevin Patullo, clearly his guy. Maybe if they lost, he still would have been able to do it. No, we don't know, but certainly when they won, he had that power to keep the guy that he wanted. And, they've been together for a long time, since 18 with the Colts. And this is a very different job, though. Passing game coordinator is kind of a vague title. Where did he fit in, among Kellen and Nick and Nuss and that whole group? But presumably he'll be the play caller. I guess we don't know that for sure. I assume he will be. Something to ask Nick out in Indy next week at the Combine. I think there's something to be said for continuity, and Jalen seemed to react positively when he was asked about Kevin Patullo, somewhat positively. But he did point out that, this is a different job. So I don't know. I can't sit here and say it's a slam dunk, but I think there's a lot of positives of having a familiar voice for Jalen and a guy that he's been around for 4 years and speaks the same language as.
Yeah. And look, I think there's a lot of different layers to this. And one of those is that the Eagles clearly would have been thrilled to have Kellen Moore back. And they finished so strong this year that, like, duh. But, for a lot of this year, it wasn't like this offense was overperforming or even performing up to expectations. So, that's one side of this. It's like everyone's like, they're losing Kellen Moore, such a big loss. And I don't disagree with that. It is a loss from a continuity perspective and because they peaked at the right time. But there was a period a couple months ago where we're saying this offense is not doing enough. So from that perspective, it's interesting to move on from him and then to hire the guy who's kind of waiting in the wings. And there are some obvious questions like, well, why wasn't he the guy after 23? He was already here. But I think at that point they really needed fresh ideas, and they felt that.
Yeah.
This year, like, I understand the argument for continuity. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't think losing Kellen Moore is a devastating loss. I think it's a significant loss. I certainly don't feel like he's irreplaceable. And you're right. I mean, they really came into their own in the playoffs, especially those last two games. But it took a while to get there. And I don't think that he's irreplaceable. I think that his biggest strength was that he just kept dialing up the run. I mean, that's the best thing that Kellen Moore did. Even if they were down 10-0, he stuck with it. When they went up, he stuck, whatever it was, they built a lead running it. They kept the lead running it. There were days, even the Super Bowl, the running game wasn't working as far as getting 5-6 yards a pop, but stuck with it, kept the clock moving, opened things up for the passing game. And I think that's the biggest thing he did. So yeah, I wouldn't have hired him as a head coach. I wish him well. I think, he's maybe he'll do great, but he wouldn't have been at the top of my list. I don't know how you feel.
It depends on. So we get such a limited view into Kellen Moore, the person, in public that it's tough to say that.
That's fair.
Because like when you're talking, and then we're off topic already, but like the Eagles have proven that you don't need to be an X's and O's genius to be a great head coach. You can be, certainly you can be, but there are other qualities that make a really good head coach. And being an X's and O's genius alone doesn't do that. We've seen both sides of the spectrum with this Eagles team, right?
Right.
Like, think about Chip Kelly, and everyone's like, oh, this offense is going to change the world, but he couldn't speak to his players and it didn't work, right? So you have Nick Sirianni, who, I think has some shortcomings when it comes to play calling or scheme in general, but is a really good head coach because he more than makes up for it in other areas. So if you're just hiring the scheme, I kind of agree with you. There wasn't enough on tape this year to say that's a slam dunk hire for the Saints, but you're hiring more than a scheme.
Yeah. And we'll see like how closely Kellen's, like, I think what Nick does, I don't know if that's transferable to other coaches, like, the whole culture and connecting. Does that work when Kellen's a completely different personality than Nick. And we are off topic. And as usual, it's my fault, but I just don't know if that stuff works if you don't have Nick's personality and his obsession with those things. And maybe Kellen does. I don't know.
There have been other coaches that connect with players.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. So we'll see. And I wish him well. They got a lot of work to do down there. Certainly. They're a long way from being competitive, but in any case, I do think that Patullo is going to have a chance to. Now, we don't really know a ton about him. Like, when you're passing game coordinator, I know there's a lot of fans out there. I got messages from people like they're worried that he's just going to want to throw the ball because that he was passing it. It doesn't work that way. That was his title. That was his job, was working on the passing game. It's not like Saquon's going to get 8 carries a game. He's not. So I wouldn't worry about that. But we don't know a lot about him and what his philosophy is and how much he's going to change, how much he's going to keep. I'm really curious to find out answers to some of those questions.
Yeah, obviously, like, his connection with Sirianni is what everyone knows about him. He was on that plane when Sirianni flew here from Indianapolis. Those two have been connected at the hip for a long time now. And I think there's like some good in that. And I think for Patullo, there's probably some bad in that too, because he's his own coach with his own ideas that he hasn't been able to publicly show yet. And for him, it's probably a little frustrating to just be lumped in with Nick all the time. Now, when things are going well, like now, it's a good thing because you get promoted. But I'm curious to see what the offense looks like and what he'll bring to it. Because, I think the fear is that they end up in the shell of what they were. And it's not like the offense was that much better in 24 than it was in 23,
True.
honestly, until when it really mattered. But like, I think the obvious fear is that they kind of regress to being extreme in a lot of areas, and they're not that inventive, and they rely too much on their star power. All the things we talked about in 23, right? Why they needed a fresh outlook on offense. I think that's like the natural fear here, is that they regress to that because it's Nick's offense and Kellen is just part of an extension of it. But in reality, we don't know what Patullo is going to bring to it.
Yeah, I would guess we probably won't talk to Kevin till OTAs. He'll be available. I would guess that'll be the first time we get to, ask him questions about his offense. And I don't know how forthcoming he'll be. Did you spend any time with him in New Orleans? Did you have a chance to?
In passing, I didn't like sit down and talk to him.
Yeah, he was very popular.
Yeah, like we mentioned, everyone kind of knew that this is the way things were trending. I've talked to him over the 4 years he's been here. Seems like a bright guy. I can tell you from everyone I've spoken to in that building, like, they're excited for him to get this chance.
Yeah.
And it was kind of floated out there that he was a potential candidate for Kellen Moore to hire in New Orleans. I don't know how real that was. We never heard of an actual interview.
Right.
But I think that would make some sense. We did get a sense that Kellen and Kevin were close this year. And I think there's a potential that Kevin Patullo played like a kind of underrated role this year in marrying schemes, because he was kind of like the bridge between Nick and Kellen Moore, who had their own really strong relationship. But I think there's a chance that his role was a little underrated in that aspect.
Could very well be. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. And you can tell because, like, even though he wasn't part of the regular rotation of people, we never talked to him. Was he even available at training camp at all? I don't remember him talking. He may have one day, but people would always mention him. Other coaches would always mention him. Players would mention him. And when that happens, usually that's somebody that's well respected and is making a difference. So that wouldn't surprise me.
And then there's the Jalen Hurts aspect of all of this. He has not been shy about yearning for that continuity.
That's his word too.
Yearning?
Yeah. That's the word he used.
Mm-hmm. And I'll use it forevermore because it's a good word in this situation. This is not like straight line continuity, right? This is a little, like, this is a roundabout way to get there, but it's better than starting over, I guess, in some ways, if you're looking at it from that perspective. Whereas, like, you hire a guy from the outside who might be a veteran, it might be a veteran play caller, might be a veteran OC, but now you have to learn the quarterback, and you got to learn what he likes, and you got to learn his dislikes. At least there's a baseline to start with Kellen Moore or with Kevin Patullo. Gosh.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's really valuable. And yeah. And again, I know people are like, well, it didn't work with Brian Johnson. I mean, it has nothing to do with this. And I'm not really so sure Brian Johnson was a huge part of the problem. I just don't know.
Well, I think it's unfair to think that Patullo is going to struggle just because Johnson got fired after a year.
Right.
But I think the valid part of that, or at least like the part worth exploring, is whether the internal promotion, that person will have enough power to really influence the offense.
It's fair.
I think that's the fair question, because I think Brian Johnson, and I think people are seeing this now, was scapegoated to a certain degree after that 23 season. And we talked about that during the season. He probably felt a little handcuffed in that role. What's it going to be like now? Because Nick had to take that back seat. Does he get back in the passenger seat, or is he still in the back seat? I don't know how that works.
I think there's a chance he might be climbing into the passenger seat a little bit, but that's just guessing.
And he should be emboldened. Like, he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's tough to, and that's why it's tough to criticize or even wonder at all. It's like they've earned some leeway here. They just won a Super Bowl, for God's sake, and they blew out a team going for a three-peat. So, they have a lot of grace right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Do you think there's any chance Nick will decide to call plays?
I'd say it's a non-zero chance, but not likely. He wasn't very good at it.
No, he wasn't.
And I think he really reaped the benefits when he stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And like from the moment Shane Steichen left after 22, he was very clear that the next guy, and it ended up being Brian Johnson, would call plays. There was never a question after Johnson got fired that the next guy would call plays.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the setup.
I think you're probably right. But until I hear him say it, I'm just going to wonder a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think the odds of him taking back play calling are.
I mean, Kellen Moore had done it. Kevin Patullo hasn't.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions we obviously have about the new OC, that, you know, we can see glimpses of the offense in training camp and OTAs. One of the biggest questions about this promotion is how he'll handle play calling, and we can have all the inclinations in the world. We won't know it until week 1.
Yeah.
On Thursday Night Football.
Against?
We'll find out.
Who do you think?
Oh, I don't know.
You think it'll probably be non-division team?
The Lions won it.
Bears, maybe. Lions make sense.
That'd be a fun game.
Yeah. You do your matchups yet? I think we'll get some answers next week. I don't know how many, but I would think Nick would be open about play calling and who's going to handle that. I would think that's something we would know Tuesday.
Yeah, I think he'll say Kevin Patullo is going to call plays.
I would think so too.
Yeah. And look, like, I think there's a chance he's good at this. He's going to be good at this. Like, there are obvious questions to answer at some point, but all indications are he's a smart coach who's been around for a long time, who's well respected in the building. And if ever there's a time for a team to feel itself a little bit and have the internal promotion, it's right now, coming off a blowout win in the freaking Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree.
They also brought in Parks Frazier to replace Patullo as passing game coordinator. What do you know about Parks?
Well, yeah, he was with that group and with the Colts, obviously. So he and Kevin and Nick were all together, along with Jason Michael, Jonathan Gannon. That whole group came here at different times. But he was the interim play caller when Frank got fired and was replaced by Jeff Saturday. He was the interim play caller the rest of that season. That was kind of a lost year, but an
interim OC.
An interim OC, correct. So highly thought of there. Now he's bounced around. He's in Miami last year.
Which I like, by the way, just getting exposed to a different offense.
Totally agree. Underachieving probably, but no fault of him. But yeah, so he's from that Colts, school and under Frank, and he's a young guy. I think he's 33?
33.
Yeah, young guy. So Nick loves drawing on his Colts experience, and just another guy from there. So we'll see. We'll see. We won't know. Yeah, it's kind of like Patullo. It took a long time to really have a sense of what he was doing, and even then, we never did totally. What exactly does a passing game coordinator do as opposed to offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach? All these people in these positions. But
I think some of the positions are obviously like pretty clearly defined when you're talking about like a position coach. I think some of the passing game coordinators and the senior analysts and all that, I think they kind of like getting where they fit in.
Yeah.
Like they fill in the holes a little bit. Sometimes they'll be given like projects to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but he's a young guy, and Nick obviously thinks highly of him. And right now, I think you kind of trust Nick's judgment on these things.
Yeah. And it's important to kind of restock, because look, if this team continues to be good, there's a chance in another year or two we're talking about, Kevin Patullo left and he's now a head coach, and you got to be ready.
If they go to the Super Bowl again, Kevin Patullo is he's going to get a head coaching job. He'll be in the mix.
Mm-hmm. And to tell you how much they think of Patullo, he came here as passing game coordinator. We should mention the last 2 years he's been an associate head coach, which is kind of like a made up title, but it tells you that they like him.
Yeah.
Because they have associate head coach and they have assistant head coach.
Who's over?
I don't know. All these titles are very funny in a way.
Yeah.
You sit down and you're like, you think Jamal Singleton and Patullo look at each other and are like, well, I'm the associate head coach. Well, I'm the assistant head coach.
I like to think they do.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Seinfeld episode, actually. We were talking to Howie
Well,
one
it
time.
is an episode of The Office. Well, a bit on The Office, but you probably didn't watch The Office. Your references stop in like 95.
Hey, I watch Parks and Rec.
Do you?
Yeah. That's the funniest show.
You like Parks and Rec?
I love that show.
Huh.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
I like that we're talking about that as we talk about parks.
Yeah, that's right. Parks, but I think it's so well written and acted. Yeah. But anyway, what's the game that the guy made up that the most complicated board game in history? That's like the funniest episode. Of course, I can't think of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's gonna bother the hell out of me, so I gotta look it up.
I don't have any wireless service in here, so it's really severely hampering my ability to do much of anything.
I think that's probably a good thing. Because then you just like search for the track and field winner, the Cones of Dunshire. You
Cones
search
of
for like
Dunshire.
the 1977 triple jump champion.
Of what meet? I don't need to look that up. It's all up here. Cones of Dunshire. Yeah. And they're playing it in that one office, and he's like, I invented that game, and he ends up having like a showdown with them. And anyway, what the hell were we talking about, Dave?
Parks Frazier.
Yeah, Parks Frazier. But yeah, he's and Patullo. He'll be if they have a good year. I mean, Nick's going to keep losing coaches. That's just the reality.
Yeah, you got to be ready for it.
And I think he is. He knew this was coming.
And you've covered the team long enough. I didn't cover this era, but like things started going down for Andy here when he wasn't able to replenish the talent at the rate he was losing it. So it's something that I think the franchise is like, they're well aware of it. And it's something that Jeffrey and Howie are like hyper fixated on, is making sure they do it in the front office, certainly, but you have to do it with the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, Howie's had to deal with it more than anybody. I mean, we talked last week about all the front office people he's lost. So when you're successful, it's fact of life. And you got to replace people at the same level that you're losing them, or you're going to start losing games. Yeah.
And part of it is like bringing these guys along, like a 33-year-old Parks Frazier, start learning the ropes, man, and spend a lot of time around Kevin Patullo. Because if this machine keeps running the way you want it to run, it could be your job.
Yeah. And Nick has talked about how kind of mentoring potential head coaches is he considers that part of his job, is getting people prepared, getting assistants prepared for the interviews and the whole process. And getting them as ready to become head coaches as possible. He's got a coaching tree now. He's got 3 of them. I don't think Andy had 3 until.
I mean, he does. I don't know if he got Kellen Moore over the hump.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, he was here 1 year. I don't know if Kellen gets that job though.
And that's why. It was pretty clear Patullo was going to get this job, but if the timing was different, this would be a really attractive job for a coach like that, who has the chops and is looking at this offense like, man, you mean I get Jalen Hurts, that offensive line, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, sign me up.
Don't forget Jahan Dotson.
Okay.
Please.
And Jahan Dotson.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. And there's going to be more. It's going to keep happening. And and they also lost Doug Nussmeier and TJ Paganetti. I mean, it's a big chunk of the offensive coaching staff.
Yeah. So Nussmeier is now the new OC in New Orleans. Paganetti is going there. We don't know exactly.
Don't know his title.
What title? He was the assistant offensive line coach most recently. Nussmeier is a significant one. We kind of expected it, but what kind of quarterbacks coach do you think they should try to get for Jalen this time?
That's a great question. It'll be 4th and 4 years, right? Brian Johnson, Alex Tanney, Nuss, and the new guys.
And I'd assume they're going to have one.
Yeah, I assume that too. Not a slam dunk. I think I mentioned that in the story that they could split it up among.
It was something that I had never even thought about until you wrote it. I still think they will have one.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
No, there's not. But yeah, if Nick thinks that one of the, that it's not necessary. I mean, that a lot of times I'm trying to think, Doug didn't always have a quarterbacks coach, did he? I don't believe. I think, and sometimes you see OC / quarterbacks, or sometimes the head coach is also the quarterback's coach. Like, I'm thinking Doug had that dual role.
He didn't have an OC at one point.
Didn't have an OC at the end, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think, and it's got to be. I would say, Jalen, who do you want? Who are you comfortable? What are you looking for? And not,
and it is more than Jalen. Like, there are other quarterbacks in the room.
Yeah, Ian Book's got to, you got to coach him up. I don't think we'll do our stay or go soon, but I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to be here next year.
Okay,
I'm just guessing, but Nuss was very technical minded, according to everyone I talked to for that story I did in December, which was Kellen, Jalen, and Nick. Just really very hyper into technique and arm angle, and just all that stuff that I think Jalen needed and served him well. So I think that's most important, that it's somebody who can make sure Jalen doesn't get into any bad habits as far as throwing, and continues to grow as a passer. And who that is, I don't know. Not sure there's anybody on the staff. There was no assistant quarterbacks coach. All the other, most of the positions have that. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. That's all we have on the coaching stuff, right? I did want to mention Cam Jurgens reportedly had surgery on Tuesday, that per Adam Schefter. Not a surprise there. He was playing through a lot of pain. Apparently the surgery was to reduce or to alleviate nerve pain in his back. He toughed it out in the NFC Championship game and then again in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he really did. And these guys are so tough. They don't let on how much pain they're in. As somebody asked, I think it was Landon, like, after it was locker clean out day. And he's like, how healthy are you? He's like, oh, everything hurts right now. Everything's, you don't even think about it. It's just, you expect it. It's played 21 games. So Cam played well with that injury. I don't know how he did it, but
like it tells you something. These guys are tough, and everyone's playing through injuries. Some of his teammates were like marveling that he played through it. Yeah. So like when you see that, it tells you that, okay, it was bad. Like when he played the NFC Championship game, I remember some of his teammates in the locker room were like, we have no idea how he just did that.
Yeah. Yeah. And smartest thing they did was keep him up that day, just in case. Keep him active. Because if he was inactive, who knows? I mean, they probably still would have won, but who knows what would have happened. So it sounds like he should be okay. I mean, who knows for the start of training camp, but by the start of the season, he'll be fine.
And something tells me he'll be a much richer man by then.
You would think.
He's entering the final year of his rookie contract. The Eagles are going to extend him this offseason. I'd be shocked if they don't.
Yeah. No, they have to. Yeah.
They don't have to.
They have to. They don't technically have to.
Yeah. And I mean, if there were another team, they wouldn't have to. If they were the Cowboys, they wouldn't have to.
No.
It's just the way the Eagles operate, and it's a good way to operate.
Yeah.
You get these guys, you pay them, you keep them happy, you get in before, like the market is always expanding and always going up. You get in there before you have to shell out crazy money.
Well, it's going to be significant money. I mean, he's going to be one of the highest paid guards in the league.
Yeah. Well, he's not a guard.
No, he's not a guard anymore. Center. My bad. Yeah, he's gonna get the bag, as they say.
Yeah, and he deserves it. And like I think they're really just scratching the surface with him. He's a Pro Bowler in year one as a starting center. I think he's still going to get better.
Yeah, I do too. And it's still astonishing to me that this offensive line loses a Hall of Fame center, maybe the best center of the last 50 years, and gets better and wins a Super Bowl. And, not to mention Fletcher, but just on the O-line, I mean, this was a better O-line than last year. And I didn't see that coming. I mean, I felt like Cam would do a good job replacing Kelsey, but I think they also found a guy who had the perfect mentality to do that. He's he's so flatline, and he just nothing bothers him. The whole following Kelsey thing never was an issue with him. He just went out and played really well. And I think we've talked about how important it was that Kelsey took him under his wing right from the get-go. So he had 2 years of learning from him, and it kind of took the mystique out of, like, I'm following a Hall of Famer. I'm just following a guy who was in the locker next to me for 2 years.
All right. Want to take a little break?
Yeah.
On the other side, we'll have defensive nicknames, and I can't wait.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
All right, we're back on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. Ruben Frank and Dave Zangaro. Defensive nicknames coming up in just a second.
Looking forward to this.
But we want to mention the Combine begins next week. I'll be out there talking to talking to Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. Real quick, Rube, anything you really want to learn from these guys next week?
Well, we just touched on a big thing is, Kevin Patullo's role and why Nick believes he's the right guy for that job. Maybe we'll find out who the QB's coach is, who's going to call plays is going to be big. And then from Howie, the obvious stuff is, and maybe there'll be some news. Maybe there'll be a signing or two. Well, because that's when the agents and the you can certainly talk to agents who represent your own guys legally. The other stuff, and some of those agents represent guys you might be interested in. So you're allowed to talk about some players, but not the others. But if you're at a bar at 2 a.m, there's nobody from the league kind of keeping track of who you're talking about. Just kind of what the general philosophy is, when it comes to, Becton, Bond, all these guys, Milton. There's a bunch of them. Sweaty. Those are the main guys. There's other guys, but even a guy like Oren Burks, I think is really important, especially because we don't know when Nakobe's going to be back.
Questions about Slay.
Certainly. Yeah.
And then side B to that is Isaiah Rodgers.
And those are kind of so related to each other. Slay made that question more challenging by playing really well and had a good postseason. And his leadership is undeniable. And he's the funniest guy in the locker room.
We should mention the salary cap going up again this year. Shocker, the NFL is doing pretty good business right now. It was $255.4 million in 2024. The league now expecting somewhere around $280 million in 2025. So some more room to work with if you're the Eagles. Every team gets that room, but generally the way I view these things is the teams that are good at managing the salary cap get a bigger bump when there's more to play with.
Right. And that's also the unadjusted number. So probably next week, we'll get the adjusted numbers. And the Eagles always have more room than other teams just because of the way they manage money. And I would guess that their actual number will be, what's the unadjusted number? 288?
The unadjusted is around 280.
280. I mean, they'll be above that, I would think. So that'll be the actual number that they have to deal with. Still have a lot of dead money.
Which they don't even care about.
They don't care about dead money.
Yeah.
We saw that started with the Carson trade. I mean, they just don't care. So
they're playing a different game than a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because they have an owner that's willing to shell out the money up front.
Right.
Like they're happy to pay cash.
Yeah. And they've drafted so well the last few years that, you have these guys on rookie contracts that every bit of that helps. So, yeah, I think overall how he's going to be able to do not everything he wants to do, but close to.
Yeah, look, I think they're preparing this year to lose players. There's no way around it. I don't think it's quite to the level of 22 where they knew there was after 22. I mean, where they knew there was going to be kind of a mass exodus.
Yeah.
But I do think they're preparing to lose players. I think they are aware of the comp pick formula and that they're not going to probably go out of their way to hurt themselves in that formula. So they're not going to sign guys to sign guys
Right.
either. Like I think they'll look for players who were cut because those players don't count toward the comp pick. Like they'll find ways to make it work for them, and I'm sure they already have a plan.
Yeah. Howie's, I mean, like we said, Howie probably, got his forehead stitched up and went right into the office after the parade to start working on this stuff. I'm sure he did.
Yep. All right. It's time.
All right, let's do it.
We've teased it long enough.
Can't wait to hear these.
Now we're going to go into this with an open mind because we asked people to be creative and they put themselves out there and they gave us suggestions. So we're not going to be mean to these people.
Speak for yourself.
All right. I tried, everyone. You heard me try.
I'm not mean.
All right. Let's just get into it. And what we'll do is if we like one, we think it has potential, I'll write it down and we'll keep like a list of potential keepers and we'll look back at it at the end.
Okay.
So the first one is from Alex. He goes with Down with the Vicness. Like the Disturbed song Down with the Sickness?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are we going thumbs up or thumbs down on that? I think it's creative.
It's creative. I appreciate that, but it's not something that's going to stick.
It doesn't sound sticky to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. Thank you for that one, Alex. Now, this next one from Tony, I kind of like.
Okay.
Independence Mall. Mall spelled M-A-U-L.
I like it.
I like that too. I think that's got potential. Can we put that on the,
put that
short
on the
list?
Yeah. Independence Mall.
Now, it's not a Vic themed one, but I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one from Jamie, the Smother Brothers. Rhymes.
I mean, you got to go way back to, be a Smothers Brothers fan.
Yeah.
I am. Probably not.
Okay.
It's too dated.
Okay.
If it was like the 1978 Eagles, maybe.
All right. Next one is from Constantine. He went with the no-fly zone, and then he emailed back to say, wait, let's spell fly with a PH. No-fly zone. I feel like the PH as an F has been beaten to death in this city.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one from a different Alex. The Suffocators.
Suffocators?
It's tough to say. I like it, but it's tough to say.
Yeah, I think it's creative, but it's a little unwieldy.
Okay. So that one doesn't make the cut.
No.
Next, Paul gave us a lot here. So we'll go through a few of Paul's.
All right,
Paul. Don't be too excited.
Just appreciate the effort.
The first one is The Greatness of Others. I feel like that's more of a whole team thing.
Yeah.
Defense.
And Nick would be talking about the defense all the time.
Yeah. The hyperlink, like link, the link, hyperlink. Vic happens.
Vic happens.
Yeah. That one's funny though.
It is funny. These are all good. I just, you got to think like what's practically
what's going to actually stick.
Right.
Yeah. This one we got more than once, which is very funny. The Big Dominators.
Yeah. It's clever, but no.
And then
Dom's not on the team.
On the coaching staff. Midnight Train from Georgia.
That song, by the way, has the greatest background vocals ever. The song Midnight Train from Georgia. Was that Gladys Knight and the Pips?
I believe so. I gotta look it up.
Johnny Carson actually had the Pips on just to do the background vocals without Gladys Knight. It was brilliant. But no, I mean, there's a bunch of guys from Georgia, but there's a bunch who aren't
not from Georgia. I think that's tough. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Next one's from Varun.
Varun?
Mm-hmm.
V-E-R-U-N-E?
No. V-A-R-U-N.
Okay, Varun.
First one is Fangio's Fortress.
That's more like a name for the stadium.
The stadium, yeah. The Fang Gang.
Fang Gang.
I don't hate that.
It's got potential.
Okay, let's put that
on the list.
Yeah. Fang Gang.
The problem with it is the two G's bump against each other. Fang Gang. You know how you're not supposed to use like a first name that ends with the same letter as the last name?
Who
like
says?
when you're naming a baby.
Are you?
Yeah, you don't, because then there's like,
Is that a thing?
yeah, that's why I'm not Jeff Frank, because it muddles the pronunciation. Like it's like, where does,
Interesting.
yeah.
And then Broad Street Bruisers, which I think is a little too close to the Broad Street Bullies, which has been
coined
taken
by my former colleague, Jack Chevalier.
Is that right?
Yeah, he made that up. Yeah.
Okay. Next one's from Evan. The Bird Herd.
The Bird Herd.
Yeah.
That's more of a team thing again.
Yeah,
Like I think there's got to be something that makes it distinctively the defense, whether it's a reference to Vic or just playing defense or
Okay,
sacks.
how about this one?
Yeah.
Green and Gritty.
Green and Gritty.
The problem with the word gritty is now we just think of the Flyers mascot.
Can't use gritty.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
It's like Gritty has taken the word grit from the rest of the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Gritty City.
Michael.
Come on, Michael. What do you got?
The Lockdown Legion. I don't know if there's anything like specific to this defense.
Yeah.
The Rising Talons.
Rising Talons?
Talons. There's a bunch here. Vic's Flight Control.
Vic's Flight Control?
Yeah.
Okay.
Birds of Prey.
I mean, I think that's been used.
Yeah.
Along the way. It's not bad.
The Swarm.
There's nothing Philly about it, nothing defense about it. I do kind of like it, but I don't think it would stick.
Okay. Next one.
It sounds like a horror movie.
The Swarm? Yeah. I kind of like it though.
Yeah.
Next one from Ash. The Vic 6 defense.
The Vic 6?
Like a pick six? Vic 6? I think Ash was excited about the pick 6 in Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have enough pick 6s to make it work.
Do they have any others this year? Who else had a pick 6?
I don't remember.
Was there only one, right?
Yeah.
And plus, it sounds like there's 6 guys on the defense.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Next from Martin. The Green Machine or Vic's the Mean Green Machine or Vic's Mean Green Machine.
Mean Green to me is a little too close to Mean Joe Green.
Okay.
Conjures up that.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
And what was the other one? Or just Vic's?
It was added Vic to it.
I feel like the winner has to have some sort of Vic Fangio reference.
Okay.
Something there.
How about 3 and Ouch?
3 and Ouch?
Yeah.
It's not bad. It won't stick, but it's not bad. Put it on the list. I like it. Yeah, I like the effort.
Put it on the list.
Who's that from?
I think this was. I gotta find it.
That's all right.
I've got so much here. This one was from Martin. Okay, next one. We have a bunch of these from Seneca. Philly Dogs. Look, it's too about some players.
Yeah.
The Midnight Menace.
They don't play at midnight.
Midnight Green. How about this one? The Midnight Marauders. We got this one a couple of times. Also the name of an old Tribe Called Quest album.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You don't like it?
That doesn't do anything for me. What do you think?
I like the Midnight Green tip of the cap because like it's kind of like the new era of Eagles football. Like you're thinking about those, like the Gang Green. You like Gang Green, you don't think Midnight Green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like ingrained in you to be Kelly Green. So I like the idea of going with a midnight thing. I don't know how many people will get that outside of Philly.
Right. Midnight Blue is a great song by Lou Gramm.
Mm-hmm.
Foreigner.
No? Are we Midnight Marauders?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
And I mean, if you want on the list, put it on the list. On a short list.
I'll put it on the short list for now.
Okay.
But we might have to cut it at some point. Okay, so the next one. So let's just get the big one out of the way. We got this one a ton, and we will put it on the short list because of how many times we got it. Fang Green. The Fang Green defense, that's the one we've gotten the most. So it's on the short list, whether we like it or not, and we'll get back to it.
Okay.
A bunch of Fang greens. Doug gave us some. I think we've kind of gone through all of these. Bill gave us Philly air traffic control.
Too wordy.
Okay. Jacob went with Fang Green. Jeff gave us the Green Monster.
Too Boston-y.
Too Boston-y. You're right. Jeff Lurie might like it.
He probably would. He'd probably try to buy the Red Sox.
Flying V's.
Flying Bees?
V's. V.
Oh,
As
Flying
in Vic. Flying V's.
That's a guitar, the Flying V.
Mhm. And also a formation
Of
birds.
I suppose. Flying V's. I mean, we know V is for Vic, but I think it's a little too obtuse.
Green Punch.
Green Punch. No.
Okay, so this is one that we got a few times, and this is not an original one. This is one that NFL Films used.
Okay.
But the Declaration of Defense.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's inherently Philly, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing I don't like about it is that we won't get the credit for it.
It's okay. I'm not doing this for credit.
You're not?
No.
Okay. Bob gave us the Midnight Green Machine.
It's okay.
Okay. Noah.
I feel like 3 words is almost too many. I feel like it's got to be something short and punchy.
Mm-hmm. Noah gives us one that.
What do you got, Noah? Come on.
I like it.
Okay.
It's about one player too much.
Okay.
But Coop and the Gang.
Coop and the Gang. Interesting.
It's pretty good. Now, it's probably too much to put on the 22-year-old rookie.
Yeah.
But Coop and the Gang is good.
It's not bad. I mean, obviously it's timely because of what he did in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. I'll put it on the short list. We both liked it.
I mean, what if they cut him?
I don't think we got to worry about that.
Coop and the Gang.
That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. Tom gives us the Dunmore defense.
Dunmore defense. Cones of Dunshire. Dunmore.
No, like Vic's.
No, I
hometown. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Lisa gave us. It's one that looks good written down. I don't know how we're supposed to say it.
Okay.
The Fanger Zone, like danger, but Fanger. So
highway to the Fanger Zone.
Because you say Fangio, Fanger Zone.
Yeah, so
but it's not. Yeah.
If it was Vic Fangier,
yeah,
it would work. It would be really good.
Rashim gives us Fangio's Fighters, the Brotherly Bullies, the Green Guard.
Yeah, I think of Becton and Dickerson as guards.
Okay. John, Uncle Vic's nephews? No? Okay.
Nice. Try that.
Markel gives us the Fantastic Four.
4?
He says 4-man rush, quarters coverage. No? Okay.
Because again, it's like there's 11 of them. If you get 11 in there.
Okay. Emily says Victor's Herd.
Victor's Herd.
Yeah.
Doesn't move my needle.
Okay. Cigar gives us Godfather Defense.
Godfather Defense.
A little nod to the Italians.
I get it.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Got a lot of like Machine Green, the Green Machine, Broad Street Brute Squad. All right, here's one from JC that I do like.
Okay, JC, come on.
And this is something that it's a little tricky one, but CJ Gardner-Johnson has said BTA a lot. You know what that means?
Yeah.
Okay. The BTA defense.
You have to explain it to some people.
I think there's something fun in that because like everyone who knows, And I think the players would be on board with that.
I'll put it on the list.
I'll put it on the short list.
It's got potential.
Yeah. And it's like, it's fun because it's recent, but like, and like CJ would be on board. You need a player on board.
Well, I think what it has is it's all encompassing the whole defense. It's not limiting to like, any one player or unit. And it's Philly. It's a uniquely Philly thing. Yeah.
And the last one from David was the Fangio Swarm.
Fangio Swarm.
Yeah. We had the Swarm. Now we have the Fangio Swarm. I don't think so.
No.
Okay. So that was it for the emails. Please don't send us.
Everyone.
Please don't send us any more.
Send some more. I like them.
Here is what we ended up with on the short list here. Okay. Independence Mall. Mall spelled M-A-U-L. The Fang Gang. Fang Green. 3 and Ouch, which we added just because it made us laugh. I don't know if that's actually a real one. The Midnight Marauders. The Declaration of Defense. Coop and the Gang. BTA Defense. Now, we don't have to make the decision. I think a lot of the best nicknames just end up happening
organically.
But we wanted to give it a nudge in the right direction.
Yeah.
So how many do we have here?
We got 6.
8.
8.
Should we take out 3 and Ouch?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have 7. We love 3 and Ouch, though, whoever sent that.
Yeah.
That was fun. So Independence Mall, the Fang Gang, Fang Green, the Midnight Marauders, the Declaration of Defense. And you think I should say Declaration of Defense instead of Declaration of Defense?
Yeah.
Okay. Coop and the Gang and BTA Defense. Do you have a favorite?
I will say I don't unequivocally love any of them. Like Gangrene, just it was perfect.
You knew
when
it.
We came up with it. BTA Defense is probably my favorite. I love Coop and the Gang.
Coop and the Gang is fun.
It's not.
It's on one player.
It's not Coop and the Gang. That's not what they are. Like obviously he's a great player, but yeah.
It's like him and Reed obviously have their nickname together, but that's not the nickname for the whole defense, right? You know?
Right. Well, it couldn't be. Also, I was told not don't make Dave laugh, so I apologize.
No, please don't make me laugh.
I'm sorry.
My voice isn't back yet.
I really like it, but it's just it's not quite. I think BTA is probably my favorite out of that.
I think there are some good choices. We can table this for now, but I thought it was fun to go through it.
Yeah.
All right.
And great job for everybody.
Yeah, the
really
real team
creative
effort.
Stuff.
We're and like even the ones I appreciate you putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Some of them weren't great.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But
we all have some ideas that aren't great. You got to get the ideas out there. We got to workshop these things.
All of them had a little something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And 3 and Ouch is funny. It won't work, but it's funny.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Any final words here before we wrap this up?
No. I guess next time we talk, you'll be in Indiana, your favorite place.
Love Indianapolis. Same restaurant 45 times. I'm joking. Love Indy. Please don't tell me about
I like Indianapolis. We've always disagreed on this.
It's an okay city. I've spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
Every combine for over a decade. It's a long time. But I know where everything is, and that's a beautiful thing. Combines, it's crazy. Combines here, then we're talking free agency right after that, then the draft right after that, then OTAs. We have a little break, and then training camp.
Yeah. I mean, we're closer to next year's training camp than this year's. That's how long the season is. So, yeah.
All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. That's all the time we have today. For Ruben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.